I love this concept because it cuts through the noise of my decision-making processes as a coach, as a human being, as someone that loves numbers. Here's what I'm emphasizing. Because I have clothing businesses, when I communicate the value of my most expensive product, I go right into the 80-20 rule, which says 80% of the output is responsible. Or no, 80% of the output is directly tied to 20% of the input. So if we have, in this example, 10 outfits, based on this rule, we wear 2 outfits more than the other 8. In a business setting, there are 10 sales associates, right? 2 of them kick out 80% of sales, right? If we have 10 digital products, 2 of them will sell the most. Now, here's where it gets a little nerdy. If we drop down to just the 2 and discard the other 8 digital products, then it's still 80-20. It's just more finite. I'm kind of showing it ahead of time because I don't want people to get too lost in the sauce. You know what I'm saying? But I'm also saying without the sauce, you're lost. So in this example, that means 20 people of the 100 put out 80% of the results. Okay. Then we go further, we could then say 20% of 20 people is 4. And then it goes on and on. But the concept helps break through some of the noise on a personal level as well. Which 20% of skills would solve 80% of your confidence problems? Confidence doesn't come from hype. It comes from competency you trust. So, okay, which 20% of skills will solve 80% of the problems? Now, here's where some of the magic happens, which is why I'm a fan of making lists. Because we can list 10 skills, 10 things we're good at, and then list 10 problems we currently have in our professional life, in our personal life, in our business, wherever applicable. We now have a standing chance to show ourselves where the answers are, where the solutions are, right? Every skill should be applied, and every problem, if it is a true problem, has a solution. So we're going to say applied skill, and then we're going to say solutions or viable solutions. So this is a screenshot, pause, homework moment, boom, snapshot. And then I know for me, if I can rely on 20% of my skills to solve 80% of my problems, then that would mean this right here is the bulk of my problems. This is the required input. Boom. Screenshot that. And then I'm going to say one of my skills is coaching. And then another one of my skills is, how would I explain that? That would be, for lack of better words, physical labor. It just says, I got a job and I'm leveraging my ability to coach. Those are my best skills. And physical labor could be anything that is of physical nature, but I know for me, I'm driving, I'm working on machines. And so that's my spiel. And then 80% of my problems is going to, and we can compartmentalize problems based on where we are in our human experience. So for me, mine is as simple as business overhead. We're going to say quality of life. What we identify is stability. We're going to say family is overhead, quality of life, physical upkeep, personal upkeep, diet, low up my diet, sleep, taking care of family. And then we're going to say building legacy. And problems may not be the better word for this grouping of things, but for this illustration, it fits. So as a business owner, what most would consider to be the essence of life, I would consider to be overhead, quality of life, taking care of family, or in my case, put them on payroll, right? Side note, if you're a business owner and you are feeling bits and moments of survivor's guilt, then I would challenge you to see things how I see things, where we're not solving their wants, taking care of family. we're satisfying their needs. So my desires to give my parents and my grandmother the world, I can't. It's not my job. That's what God is for. God got it. Needs, I can do this because God is also giving me the sustenance, the capital, the finances to make sure they don't go without. And that could be buying a house. That could be having a sitter or a caretaker, right? Even some health plans allow them to have nutritionists and then someone to walk with them. So we'll say personal trainer. So me not being able to solve this or settle this right now is a problem for me, which is why it's right here. It's one of my problems. Building legacy. Something happened when COVID hit. For the first time in my life, well, not first time, but for the first time in a long time, I was able to unplug from the matrix of making money and being busy and being able to just understand it's one thing to make money, but is the money I'm making, or rather, yeah, is the money I'm making enough money to separate how I'm spending money to set funds aside for building legacy? Meaning, out of all the money we make, what percentage of such is simply dedicated to building legacy? I know my number. I time traveled to 2125, which is 100 years from now, and working backwards, reverse engineering to better the future of my lineage and legacy. I got to be leaving them, in my mind, 25 million or more. I've already assessed the problem, and my skill set is going to solve that problem, right? So a viable solution for me to build a legacy is knowing I need 25 million, which then validates the notion of the applied skill, aka coaching and physical labor. Cool. Take care, family, viable solution, put them on payroll for their necessities. And if they're still making money, then they can handle their wants. And that way I gotta get tied up in how they spending their money, how they eating their money up, all the things. Cool. Sleep is self-explanatory, as is diet. There was a time in life where I wasn't making enough money to eat or value what I ate rather. And now that's different. You feel me? No cooked food if I can manage. Um, and then salad, soups, foods that's electric, right? That gives me more energy. Physical personal upkeep.
Can I ask,
Yeah,
can I
talk
ask
to
you a
me.
question real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So the taking care of the parents or taking care of the family by putting them on payroll. When you say putting them on payroll, so is that just like dedicated amount of money that you set aside each month? And you just is that do you legitimately put them on payroll or is that just a line item in your expenses and your finances?
All right, here's how we do this. So as I have it broken down in my mind, there are foundational, foundational resources we make available. And I'll break down what this is 'cause I can get real wordy sometimes. And then, like you said, there's payroll, what we'll call direct deposit. Now, for me, foundational in my case would be, buying my grandma house. All right. For my mom, it would be because I've helped out in the house since I've been 16. It's just how life is sometimes. But I would buy
Mhm.
my mom. I would pay off my mom's car and give my auntie a cash car. These are foundational resources that are the first steps of the payroll. So payroll to me is moving money to an account, and then if they need something, that's what that account is for. So we could say payroll, squiggly lines, account for this could be overhead finances, this could be well-being. Here's the
I
thing.
like that.
Yeah, in my business, in my business, if I'm paying my assistant, then I'm also paying this account, presumably, which is payroll balance sheet. There we go. That's what I'm referencing when I say this. Not necessarily putting money in their account for them to spend, but allocating money on the balance sheet that I dedicate
Mhm.
to their quality of life.
I
This
like
would
all
be, like I
that.
said, caretaker or sitter, and then all things I listed previously, dietitian, personal
Mhm.
trainer. Um, and then that way, I'm not so I feel defeated when I experience survivor's guilt or when I phone home and I feel motivated to cut the conversation short because I ain't got the money right now. It's like, nah, bro, you're building out the solutions based on understanding the problems and actively applying your skills. So what happened recently was I was like, okay, what programs do qualify for, so I can take action now. I don't want to wait till I make it 25K a month to handle it. I want to start where I'm at, and then once I hit here, right, I'm much more farther along. So if she can't have a sitter 24/7, can I start with 7 hours and then work up? I sure can. That's where I'm gonna start.
Mhm.
Right? But having this awareness, I don't feel defeated to where I don't start. I have actionable steps or that one thing that I'm gonna do after this call to get the ball rolling. Sleep, I have the Whoop device, which monitors my sleep, heart rate, all the things, calories burned, etc., because before I cared about my sleep, I didn't value my sleep. Now that I want to make more money and all the billionaires and millionaires and trillionaires value sleep, I value sleep. So that's why I was up on this board. But I can't feel worthy of sleep if I'm not actively applying my skills. Cool. Diet. This right here is things like going to the sauna, cold plunge. This is, you know, grooming, right? I tell people when I'm driving in a vehicle on a bumpy road or a sharp turn or an abrupt stop or the day-to-day travels of traffic, my body is enduring trauma from all sides. The bumps in the road, the stopping, the anxiety of traffic, the impromptu management of other people's energies when they're on the road, right? All of that is traumatic. So
Yeah.
on a pursuit of quality of life or on a pursuit to better our confidence, it's important we tackle these things because if not, we will find ourselves constantly operating from a sense of deficiency. Hope it helped me understand you have regular, level headed, then you have deficiency. Zero, negative. COVID helped me understand I've been living deficient for so long. I finally able to break three and experience a level of level headedness once I settled some of these things here that I didn't value because I was living life deficient. And deficient means I don't invest in these physical experiences, cold plunge, sauna. I don't maintain my grooming. I don't stretch in the morning and massage my body to make sure it's working properly and all the kinks and dents aren't smoothed out, right? Cool.